Hi, welcome to Inside the Moms Club, where being a mom is the coolest place to be. Here in the Moms Club, we believe that what embarrasses you now will make a great story later. And let's face it, if you don't laugh sometimes, you're going to cry. Join us in having a good laugh together. I'm Monica Samuels. You are now inside the Moms Club, your private destination for all things mom. Welcome, moms. Welcome to Inside the Moms Club. I'm your host, Monica Samuels, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Julie Orchid.
Hi, I've missed you.
I know. Julie was away for a little while, but she is back.
Back and ready.
So excited. And we're going to have a great, great show today.
I'm so excited.
So,
I really am.
We haven't seen each other for a while.
Right.
Because you had some other things going on.
I had a small diagnosis of breast cancer, but now I'm back.
Yeah, but you're back, so we're so excited about that. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if you were at the party. Well, I don't think you were there. I was at a lunch with our other friends, and I was asking them all, should I get a facelift? Because I
must have missed
a little
that lunch.
one. A little one. Well, yeah, you weren't at that one, I don't think. And because I said, I feel like now I've got a little bit of Richard Nixon going on. You know, just a little there.
All right.
So, but they said they didn't think so.
What do you think I would have said if I was at that lunch?
I think you might have said no.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But
anyway.
But I've kind of gotten on this kick now that I feel like, I mean, I guess we all get to a certain place where we feel like, oh, we need to change our,
Listen, I don't come by this just saying it because I feel like I'm actually worked for a surgeon.
Oh, you did?
I did.
That's
I worked
true.
for
You worked
surgeons.
for a plastic surgeon.
My background as a nurse, I went and worked for them and done taking care of post-op tons of people for facelifts. So I think it's a fine balance. I think you can overdo it. I think you can try to search for something that you may not get on the other end of the knife. So it's all about the natural glow. What do you like? What do you makes you feel good?
Well, and what kind of stops me anyway? I'm a hypochondriac, so there is that.
Yeah.
But I'm also an attorney and very cautious about everything.
Right.
And I think the last thing I would ever want to have happen is I go in for one of those procedures.
Right.
It doesn't go well.
Right.
Everyone has to come to my funeral, and they're all saying,
Lord. I think
and they're all
extreme.
saying, we wouldn't have to be here if she wasn't so vain. So that's why I'm like, I'm not going to go do this. But that doesn't stop me from doing other things. So I bought a red light.
Oh, boy.
And I haven't really tried it yet. And the guy that sold it to me was at South by Southwest. He was very lovely. Before he told me.
What was the trick that he said to you?
Well, he said it was $11,000, but they had a special for $7,000. But he sold it to me for $2,000.
Oh my God. Even better.
I haven't tried it yet, but so I did that.
Did you bring it?
No, I don't. I haven't even opened the box yet. So, but I haven't.
We could have tried it.
For me, buying things and getting them is like half the battle. Like, oh well, I got the whatever, so now it should be all good.
Right.
But so I did that, and then I bought this other thing that you turn it on and it gets really cold and it gets rid of the puffiness under it.
I need
haven't
that.
opened that box either.
A flight last
but the
night
box
that
I did open.
Yeah.
So I went to Neiman's, and this salesperson told me about this product called, I think it's Nobel Panacea, which is this moisturizer that costs a ridiculous amount of money. And I've told her, I said, my husband, I'll have to rob a bank to do this. It's ridiculous how expensive it is. But she was trying to sell me on the fact that a Nobel laureate, a Nobel chemist, he won the Nobel Prize.
Is this a peace prize?
No, he won it for chemistry.
Okay.
But that he had created this. And so she gave me samples, and I was like, wow, they really do work. Or I feel really good about it. So now I, go take cash out at the bank and run over to buy. Because Mark, if he, the bill, I just try to avoid that part of it. But I did tell her, I said, if this stuff doesn't work, I'm going to take this up with the Nobel Committee because, if they can't fix your skin, I mean, what are they doing over there?
I don't know.
A lot of these products, though, they do say on there, it's a Nobel chemist or engineer or somebody.
Do you think that makes it sell better?
I guess.
Well, your skin looks amazing. First of all, let's say it must be working because, you're always stunning to me.
Oh, well, thank you. You're so
And will you buy lunch?
You're
Just
so
kidding.
complimentary. Yes, and I'll get you drinks later. Thank you, Julie. You did that really well. When we rehearsed what you were supposed to say, you did it better than you did it in practice.
But here's the
thing. Thank you for complimenting me like that.
Here's the thing about that, and I'm going to say that. I just flew from New York last night. And we spent a lot of time going to different places. And I did get caught up in the whole skincare department and glow department, you know what I mean? And had everybody try something. So it's a lost, what do I do? What's most important to me? And it's an industry that is worth, discovering and seeing what works for you.
And it's it's fun too.
My God, it was a blast.
Fun.
I mean, you can't
that and clothes.
I mean, to do it with your adult child too was even better because this is a whole new relationship.
Well, you have daughters too. I sadly I can't share the experience of moisturizer with my son. He just doesn't. He tunes out if I go there right now.
Well, they all need it, even if
he does need it. That's a whole different story. No, he doesn't. He's very. Well, we are very, very, very lucky today. We are so excited to have with us someone who can talk to us about, what's really appropriate. Because she talks a lot in her writing, at this stage of our lives, like what makes sense. She is a supermodel who has graced the covers of top international fashion magazines like Vogue, Essence, and Elle. She's a recognized authority on beauty through her career as a model, TV personality, and the founder of the pro-aging blog, Webb on the Fly, and the blog Haute Mess on Substack. I love her motto, which is own your age,
that's right.
Own your beauty, own your power. She is the mom of a blended family of 4. Please welcome Veronica Webb. Welcome to the Moms Club, Veronica.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Thank you for joining us today. Well, so many of the moms out there who are in our audience are just going to love to listen to this. And there's so many things that we're going to cover here. We don't have a lot of time. But I guess the first thing I want to share with our audience is tell us a little bit about your career. How did you started as a writer, correct? A fashion writer? And you became a supermodel.
There were 2 things that I always loved growing up. One was having people read to me because I'm very dyslexic, but I love stories.
Yeah.
So as a child, I would beg my sisters to read to me. I'm like, I'll go to the store for you. I'll wash your car. I'll do whatever, but please read to me every night. And, it took me a while to actually grasp reading. And then once I did, it was, it meant like everything to me. And then once I grasped reading, then writing came behind that. And I went from a kid who struggled to read until really the 3rd grade to, I was winning writing competitions and always published in the school newspaper. And the first time I actually got my big reward for writing, I won a contest and got to go to another school in Toronto. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing the world. And growing up, my mother made all my clothes. My mother had grown up on a farm in Ohio during the Depression. So my mother knew how to make everything. Yeah. I mean, everything. She could make a down jacket. She could make an evening gown. She could dye your shoes to match. She made furniture. She baked, she cooked. Yeah, you name it. Something creative was always coming out of her hand to sustain her family. So the kind of love of communication through the written word and then fashion kind of, all rolled up into one. And I wanted to model when I was young. And my mother said no, very wisely. She thought, well, you better get accepted to college,
right?
Get a scholarship, have a regular job, learn the value of $1. So I did all that, then got accepted to Parsons, went to New York when I was 18, worked at a store in Soho as a cashier, got discovered by a team that was shooting for Vogue right in front of my store. And then I went off to Paris. And the whole time, to supplement my income, I was always writing little articles for, that was back when print was everywhere, right? So, you could pick up a little money here and there writing for Paper Magazine or The Voice or Details or Elle or whatever. So, it was always sort of my safety hatch having writing. And that's continued till now. I launched a column on Substack, that new platform that everyone is on, and it's called Haute Mess. And, I really like to talk about the glamorous mess of being a woman.
Right.
And the frustration and the adventure and the satisfaction of pulling ourselves and our families together every day.
Yeah. So do you find it to be, is it still so fun? Is it still do you still love, what I mean, when you're getting ready or putting yourself together? I mean, there's so much. I love, listening to you and seeing the Substack. I'm on it. So what's your favorite part?
Yes, it's still fun getting together because you go through periods where it's easy. You go through periods where it's really frustrating because our bodies change so much. Our needs change so much. We're women, like our bodies change like every 21 days. We're just, we're built to grow and change and morph. But for me, there's so many good memories of growing up and getting ready, with my sisters, and then going to Paris and New York and working with like legendary makeup artists like Kevin Aucoin and Orbe and, you name it. And then also every time you get ready, I feel like there's so much hope in it, right? Like, Azzedine Alaya, who was a great friend of mine, the designer, he used to say, women buy these dresses. They come in here and they buy these dresses, honey, because they give them hope.
Yeah.
It's hanging in your closet. It represents like somewhere where you're going to go in the future. It represents, another chance at going out there and getting what you want in life.
Yeah, I love that.
So, I love the combination of nostalgia, thinking of my family, my sisters, my dearest friends, and then the hope of the future. Like, what's going to happen today when I get dressed and go out there and, take my chance?
So, what is life going to bring?
I can ask someone now. It's nice to have an actual supermodel on to ask this question. I've always wondered, because I look at how some of them are dressed and what they're wearing. Like a couple of years ago, I broke my foot badly and I had to have two surgeries. And the doctor told me, he said, you're like the 100th woman we've had in here because you all wear high heels all these years. And then you make your feet a little weak or whatever. What's the real experience? Sometimes I've seen a runway model and I'm thinking, I could not walk in those shoes more than a couple of steps. So what's the experience? You have to be kind of an athlete and, and you're beautiful.
Here's the thing, those high heels are like wearing point shoes. So you don't have to wear them very long. You don't have to go very far, but you do have to perform at your highest level when they're on.
There you go.
And so, one of the things that I quickly learned to do, because, if you can't walk in heels, you can't get paid. So, that definitely raises the stakes tremendously and very quickly, but you just put on high heels and you do everything in them. You go to the grocery store, you drive, you run, you jump around until you kind of get comfortable with it. You kind of have to make your feet hard in the same way that a dancer has to make their feet hard. And I've had, situations where in a Karl Lagerfeld show, I went down the runway. Both the heels just blew off.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I fell down flat in front of Anna Wintour, the legendarily unforgiving editor-in-chief of American Vogue, who Amanda Priestley from Devil Wears Prada was based on. And I felt so terrible because I felt like, oh my God, I let Carl down, and I let down all the women who work in the atelier who have spent months and months sewing this one dress, and the dress only has like 5 minutes to do its thing, even less, probably 3 minutes for the world to see it and for it to make an impact. So yes, high heels can be extremely scary. They are not easy to walk in, but you balance that also. When I say own your power, it's like every day I think of what I can do to make my body stronger. So, I spent a lot of time also actually working on my feet like a dancer, so that, and I still do every day, because, your toes, have a lot to do with balance. And as we age, our toes lose feeling. So if you're not working your feet out, like flexing them, strengthening them, you have a good chance of falling and breaking your hip. So health is a really high priority.
That's
I wish I should have done that more when I was practicing law and wearing, because I literally took 4 steps, rolled my foot, and it broke.
Yeah.
So you have to build up to that. So your daughters are, one is professional model now and one is aspiring to be. Is that?
Yes.
How do you feel about that as their mom who's been through this?
Well, of course they wanted to do it when they were 11 and 12, and all their friends wanted them to do it when they were 11 and 12. And, people used to say, because, they're both tall and they're both, they both are kind of, built, they've got enough real estate to be models, because people always ask me, why do you have to be tall? And it's like, well, so the clothes are more visible from the runway, and so that the designer can, show an exaggerated silhouette. It's like you're literally a billboard. You need to be billboard size in order for the clothes to translate, through the internet and magazines, whatever. But, it's the same advice that my mother gave me, which was you have to learn how to get by on your personality, your intelligence, and you can only be a kid once. And being a pro is the opposite of being a kid.
True.
So, I wanted them both to get through high school, work at Applebee's, understand the value of the dollar.
Yeah.
Get scholarships, concentrate, get through school far enough that once they started, it would be easy to go back and finish school. So it's a much different world too than when I started. They're in the post-Me Too era. So there's a lot more protection. There's a lot more accountability. And
I mean, thank God. Yeah.
Yeah, thank God. And also, it's so much easier to keep in touch now. Like when I went to Paris when I was 19 with a suitcase that was the size of a carry-on.
Yeah.
Didn't even have wheels, and $100 and a one-way plane ticket. If I wanted to call home, I had to work, save up enough money, then go get, the exact kind of coins, and then go to a phone booth and put the money in the phone booth and hope that somebody was home to answer the phone.
Yeah,
well,
that's true. That's true.
I remember those days as well.
Veronica, there's so many questions I have for you, but the one that sticks out to me the most is you've got something here that, I'm sure when you public speak, I'm sure people are wanting to know all about the sexier second half of life. So we have most of our kids are adult kids, which is a whole different relationship, but you have this other half to go. And I want to know, can you talk about that and what that means? Because I think a lot of people are saying, hey, what's next? What is it going to be for me? And I'd love to hear what it is going to be for you.
Well, I just turned 60 last month, and I was talking to my friend the other day about how 30 was so scary.
Yeah.
30 felt like, I'm not young anymore. It's all on me now. There's no more, she's just a kid.
Yeah.
There's no more excuses. And then 40, really felt like, okay, wow, I'm 110% in adulthood. 50 was scary for me, if you want to know the truth, because you look up and you're like, wow, I'm at the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then in my 50s, I hit a second puberty, which is, AKA menopause, but there's no textbook, right?
Right.
So like 10 years ago, people weren't talking about menopause as frequently and as openly as they are now. So I got hit with every single symptom that you can imagine, from night sweats to, burning, tingling on the back of my hands to
hip pain.
Just, brain fog, you name it. I had it.
Right.
And I spent probably, the first half of my 50s looking for relief, and I spent a lot of time, really, and that's when, own your age, own your beauty, own your power came up. And for me, because it was like so much was changing. Mm-hmm. And, I had to really accept that, we're meant to change. We are meant to change, and you have to go with it. And whatever your body is supposed to do, just enhance it.
Right.
So
don't try to change it. Don't try to go backwards. Pro-aging is basically what, part of your message is, I think. And that's why I would say to you, you're gorgeous.
No, it's a great.
And why would you?
Well, no, it's a great message. And when you say, when I turned 50, the most offensive thing that happened to me is AARP felt compelled to send me a card. I'm like, I did not ask for this. I should have to ask for this. But you know what? I should own it. I'm 50. Yeah, I'm 50. There's no shame in it at all. It's part of life. If you make it that far, you're lucky.
And like for me, the big thing was, it's kind of like, you have to, like, Cher said, snap out of it. You're not old. Yeah. You made it.
That's
you're
right.
alive. You're healthy. Everything basically works. Be thankful for what you've built and the gifts that you had. 60 is like very cool because I feel like that second puberty is behind me in a lot of ways, like all the suffering from, the perimenopause is really tamped down a lot. And I don't have any, and then like, just like professionally, I feel like I don't have anything to prove anymore. There's things that I want to do, but I don't have anything to prove anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, I don't, and I feel like the banner for this decade, what's up in lights in my mind right now is permission to enjoy.
Ooh. Like that.
I do like that.
I mean, I've been saying yes a lot lately. So say yes to yourself, say yes, and give yourself permission.
So when we were talking at the beginning of the show, I have spent a lot of money on different things. What is your thought about women at 60? A lot of them get facelifts then. What is your thought about the surgeon versus the red light or dermatologist?
Well, here's the thing. I think that, it's extremely individual.
Yeah.
I also think that there's so much that we can do aesthetically that's more about building up tissue than sort of, moving things around. Because I always say, like, sweat gets you probably about 85-90% of where you want to go physically. Mm-hmm. And then, science can help you cross the finish line. And there's so many great things because, obviously, like, who wouldn't love to, like, lay down and then you wake up and, there's 10, 20 years of sort of gravity released from your face. But I'm also really scared of anesthesia. Yeah. I'm scared of, like, who's going to, like, what if it doesn't work, like you said? Mm-hmm. What if you don't like it? What if, they don't close properly and you end up with a nightmare? So, there's things that I do. Like, I really like soft wave, which is, it's like a very powerful red light that you get in the doctor's office. It's non-surgical, it's non-invasive, and it really just enhances what your body would do naturally, which is to build and produce collagen. Mm-hmm. We're not going to get any more bone because we lose bone in our faces and our jaws too, as we age. But I really feel like, if you're fighting for muscle all the time and building muscle, whatever you do, like in the gym, also shows up in your face.
True. Mm-hmm.
And then there's another thing I really like. It's called Pure Impact, it's like these little things. They look like almost like a mouse on your computer, and the little pods just kind of go on your body with sticky things. It's also another thing you do at the dermatologist's office, but it produces the equivalent of 5,000 bicep curls or 20,000 squats or 20,000 sit-ups. And it takes an hour, and it's non-invasive, and it doesn't hurt you, and there's no aftercare, and it levels everything up, So I feel like the more muscle you build anywhere on your body, it all shows up in your face.
So, and that I wrote all of that down.
health.
Yeah, no, I wrote all that down, Julie, after the show. We're near Beverly Hills. Surely there's a dermatologist here somewhere. Or if you have a recommendation, text it to me. Well, we have some lovely ladies who've joined us and have questions for Veronica. They are our Zoomer moms, so welcome, Zoomer moms. Welcome to the Moms Club.
What's up, Karen? What's up, Heather?
Yeah. So, Heather, tell us your full name, where you're from, a little bit about yourself, and do you have a question for Veronica?
Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm Heather Powell. I'm from Austin, Texas. Julie and I have children the same age. I'm a big fan of Julie. And Veronica, thank you for your honesty. I think that I'm about to be 57. I'm an identical twin, and we laugh about who's going to go first to try what new thing. But I love that you talk about giving yourself time to enjoy, permission to enjoy life. I think we all have children that are older and are getting older, and we're having more time to ourselves. I mean, I find it very hard for me to say, I can relax, or I can take it easy, or take the day off and go read a book or go for a long walk. I feel like I'm so task driven, and I'm still working. I mean, I love my job, but it's the downtime. How do you embrace that and really kind of make the most of it?
That's such a good question, Heather, because one of the biggest, I would say, emotional adjustments I had to make was when everybody left, when my youngest went off to college. And suddenly the organizing principle of my day, even though I'm working full time, but the kids aren't there and everything is organized around them. And, selfishly also, like, helping your children gives you such a sense of accomplishment. And we get, and you get kind of hooked on that feeling, right? And so that's why it's really hard to then go read a book on a Saturday, because, you're used to being of service to someone else. And then you think I have to produce something. I have to show something. I have to do something. But the thing is it's okay to just do something that edifies you, that makes you stronger, that adds up to your mental health. And so sometimes I have to trick myself and say, well, I'm doing this to fight dementia. So, let me do this very long and incredibly complicated puzzle or problem, but it's really to fight dementia. It's not just because I'm having fun here. And then I have to remind myself, it's okay to enjoy your life. You didn't kill yourself from the time that you were 13 years old, like babysitting and cutting lawns and delivering milk, to still be trying to kill yourself now. Like, what for? Nature's going to kill you soon enough.
The retrain is no joke. And I know Heather, Heather and I are tight, and we know that, we both have kids going off to college, and it'll be the only one for Heather and the last one for me. So I love having this interview to enjoy. Permission to enjoy.
I think you'll get used to it fairly quickly.
I don't think I'll have a
Based
problem.
on some experiences. Karen, welcome to the Moms Club. Tell us your full name, where you're from, a little bit about yourself, and do you have a question for Veronica?
Sure. Hi, my name is Karen Wheat. I'm originally from Chicago, but I've lived in Dallas for over 2 decades. I have a 15-year-old son who is a sophomore in high school named Matthias, who I love dearly. I had a deep question for you, but I decided to change it I had 2 questions, but I'm going to go with the lighthearted question. Okay. When I was getting ready for today, I read this interview that you did with Denzel Washington back in 1990, and I really enjoyed it. It just transported me back to that era and those iconic movies, some of which, well, you weren't in the same movies with them, but you were in movies in the 90s, and you were talking about movies in the 90s. And I couldn't help but when I read it to think that if you were to interview him today, it would be so much different than when you did in the 1990s. So I'm wondering if there's anybody you interviewed back then, or anything you actually did back then in the 90s that you would want to do again now.
Good question.
Good question.
Yeah, things I did in the 90s that I would want to do again now. Well, back then I was editor at large of Interview magazine that published that interview. Let me see. I think, I would love to live in Paris again. That's for sure. Or somewhere in Europe, maybe that I've never lived before, like Rome or somewhere like that, and just completely discover a whole new world again.
Yeah.
One of my favorite interviews back then that I did, she's not here anymore, but Eartha Kitt, because, she was so clear-minded and unapologetically not a people pleaser. I've never met someone who was less of a people pleaser than her. And I always thought to myself, wow, you should give lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be
I
cool.
love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Misty, welcome to the Moms Club. Tell us your full name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself. And do you have a question?
Yeah, so my name's Misty Ruffing, and I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm curious. I love the owning your own age. I feel like I've done that forever. I've refused to dye my hair, and I've never really gotten into the beauty trends. But I love the owning your own age at my stage in life. But I'm also thinking about my daughter, who I feel like the beauty standards in our culture have really pressured her to get Botox or to invest in gimmicks and things to make herself more beautiful. And as a biased mom, I think she's gorgeous. And I want to know, how do you recommend that we own our own age, but we also help the next generation with that same confidence and pride?
That's such a great question, Misty. And, I have to tell you, whenever, my daughters get down on themselves and they're like, oh, I think I'm ugly. I think, I don't like my skin. I don't like, the way my body is shaped. And I always say to them, well, do you think I'm ugly? Do you think my body has a weird shape? And I'm like, because you guys, you're the best of me and you're the best of my mother. And so when I look at my face, I see my mother's face. When I look at your face, I see my mother's face and her mother's face. So, your beauty is inherited, and you need to, and it's a wealth. It's the story of your family. It's the story of who you are. It's the story of struggle and love and triumph, and it's all right here. And then, for these beauty standards, which, when you watch movies now, everyone's teeth are the same, everyone's hair is the same, everyone's eyebrows are the same, everyone's face is very much kind of the same. And I tell my kids, think about your eyebrows, they're sisters, not twins, and we're all perfectly imperfect. One eyebrow goes up more and one eyebrow goes this way more. And you don't want to take away what's individual to you, I don't know if anybody's watching White Lotus, but one of the actresses on there has these gorgeous, Easter bunny teeth. And they give her so much personality, and they make her so much her. Yeah. And, here's the thing, you're not supposed to look like other people. You're supposed to look like your ancestors, and you're supposed to look like yourself. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing is lots of times we don't like the way we look because we're neglecting something. Oh. So it's kind of nice to take an inventory, getting there and doing everything, shower, and, just where are you not taking care of your skin? And then when you're in the gym, just kind of take a quick inventory and think about, is there any part of me that's weak and could use some more attention? And then you build from there.
Yeah, that's really great
good
advice. So I hope you're writing a book about all of this. I mean, I have to tell everyone, write this down too, because when I met Veronica, she told me, she said, there's one piece of beauty advice I'll give you is everybody looks great with a hat and sunglasses. I'm like, that is great advice. Yeah. So everyone all summer, they didn't see my face hardly because I took that. You know why?
It's hair and makeup.
And it's so true. It's so true. Well, Julie and I have a quick, because we couldn't ignore fashion in all of this.
Yes.
Okay.
What I love in your Instagram is watching you put your outfits together. And what I do love, you put together an outfit that isn't all one designer or anything. I mean, you mix and match things, and there's like I was watching the other day. I'm wearing my Banana Republic belt, and one of my favorite places to go is Cezanne. They have beautiful clothes,
Ta-da!
and they're affordably priced.
This is her.
So, can you recommend for our moms out there some other brands like that you mix into your ensemble?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, there's a great brand called Room 502, and it's only online. It's actually one of my girlfriends who's a mom, and it's all like handmade, beautiful cotton. This is actually one of her dresses, and there's a lot of shirt dresses and gorgeous, beautiful fabrics and everything you can throw in the washing machine. And some of them I have about 4 or 5 of those dresses that I've had for like 15 years. And they always fit the same way, and the fabric doesn't, change or fade or anything like that. And I think anytime that, you can work with a female-founded brand, and the clothes are, beautifully made, it's worth the investment. Cezanne is one of those companies. Mm-hmm. Room 502 is one of those companies. There's a little secret corner of Zara called Collection.
Yes.
Where,
Huge.
everything is very elevated and lasts a long time. I also really like a brand out of Montreal called Dodie. And this is interesting because it's performance cashmere that has, but it's also body shaping at the same time. And it's very light and really packable and beautiful colors and easy for us to wear. I'm trying to think of somewhere else that would be great for people. And Etsy is a treasure trove.
Yeah, you can find
treasure trove.
Well,
so much. But
it's not often I take a lot of notes in these interviews.
I've been watching you, and then I got jealous, and so then I started writing it
make sure we all wrote the same thing down.
For some reason,
you had a fashion.
I have a fashion question because I've started to notice myself doing this lately. Like I've been enjoying it more and more, and I work in this store in Austin called Good Company, and it has been. It's not just about the clothes. It was the way it made me feel. It was the way that I was able to, the energy that I was able to put out. I felt beautiful. I felt confident. And so I've started to take a rack in my room, and you'll put out a few things and you'll lay and you'll match. And can you speak to the process of that? Like where does the energy come from and the power when you put something together that you love and you feel good in?
Well, one thing I feel like when you're really, preparing, because, 99% of modeling and also motherhood is preparation. Yeah. And, being ready and thinking ahead to step into the next situation. And that's a great way to do it. To like, if you really feel like your closet's a mess and you have nothing to wear, take out a handful of stuff and just throw it on the bed.
Right.
And then you'll start to see in the pile combinations of things that you hadn't thought of before. Like, different colors and patterns will just suddenly like lay on top of each other. It's almost like making a quilt.
Exactly.
And then when you pull out your favorite things, then hang them up. Like make a little section and hang them up like they would be hung up in a store, right? So that you can see like 6 things.
Right.
And then just start to play with them and try them on and put them together. And one of the things that I always say, if you have some time and you're home and, maybe like, you just need to get your head straight a little bit. It's a nice little meditative exercise to just play with color and shape like that.
I found it so peaceful.
Another trick too, buy your clothes one size up.
There you She's writing again. Yeah.
Because they're always going to feel good on you. And, you'll have some room.
I mean, except jeans, right, Veronica? I mean, we buy jeans too big and then, right? All right.
Of course, like, you need maybe 1 or 2 pair of snug jeans, but having things that are one size up, you'd be surprised that, like, how often people are going to ask you whether or not you're on Ozempic.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right. There you go.
That's great advice. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Veronica. This has been amazing, as we say here on the Moms Club. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media and your columns and Substack. Yeah.
So my Substack is Haute Mess, kind of like haute couture. So it's HAUTEMESS at substack.com. And then I'm at Veronica Webb, that's Webb with 2 B's, on Instagram.
Well, great. And I highly recommend both. I've been following you on Instagram, and I learned so much, and I just love seeing
I loved it. We didn't even get to the adult relationship motherhood stuff, but
we'll have to do that part 2 of our
next time.
Next time on Inside the Moms Club with Veronica Webb. Yes. Well, thank you so much. Well, moms, you can find us. Oh, thank you, Zoomer moms. We would be remiss if we didn't thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. You have been amazing. And hey, moms out there, if you want to be a Zoomer mom like these moms have been today, you can go on our website, InsideTheMomsClub.com, enter to be a Zoomer mom. If you know, I bet each one of you know 5 of your friends who would be amazing, even if you feel a little shy, you're not into it. I bet you know some people who love to talk and ask questions and aren't afraid to be part of the show.
Something interesting.
It's fun too. Yeah, you would absolutely love it. So please become a Zoomer mom like these ladies. Well, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube at Inside the Moms Club, and on our website. We would also like to thank our sponsors, New Calm, which we love New Calm. We can't say enough nice things about it.
It's my favorite.
It's an app that helps you sleep better, focus. It's all based on science, brain science.
Keeps me zen.
It keeps both of us zen, because we have to share a room when we're here in Los Angeles.
Sometimes we've had to share
and it can
a bed.
Yeah, that was that one time. That's true too. Well, and like last night, I crashed a bottle of something on the floor, and she didn't even wake up. But because we had New Calm in the background that kept us sound asleep. And we would also like to thank our sponsor, Beverly Hills Lingerie. They have been amazing, as we say here. They have been contributed to our events that we have around the country. So we have cocktail hours and parties for moms across America. They get together, they get to meet other moms, and local people in the community actually contribute, like Beverly Hills Lingerie did, and you can win fabulous prizes when you go to these events. So be looking for them in your community. Well, thank you so much, Julie. Once again, it just goes by so fast.
It does.
Like you said, we didn't even cover everything, but I have a whole
zoomed
bunch
by.
of notes.
Yeah.
But next time, we will be back next time with celebrities and extraordinary moms just like you. We know your me time is precious and valuable. Thank you, moms out there, for sharing with us. We will see you next time inside